IAM. This is some old footage of mine. If you like these old videos, give it a thumbs up. If you like the footage, if you want to see more content on this, thumbs up. If you don't, thumb it down. We're on the back wheel here. This is Heinrich Hausler, probably one of the most underrated pro cyclists coming out of Australia. And Heinrich is a very experienced pro rider. Look how he's sitting there. He's sitting away from his brakes, and he's just obviously he's behind his teammates. He knows, so he's very trusting there. But look at his cadence. We did about 200 or 250k this day. It was a long day. We went down south. I was on the bamboo bike, so I was just sitting on, basically talking to the guys. Guys are very friendly. Drinks and energy bars been shouted out. And so basically checking to make sure that the GoPro is on. Because sometimes I've done that before where you're recording and it's not recording. So this is basically how do pros train, a day in the life of a pro rider. The most important thing to be a professional cyclist is you have to be comfortable at speed. You really have to be comfortable close quarters of cyclists and traffic and road furniture, like these little bumps here. You have to be really totally aware of that and just mindful as well. You just have to be really comfortable at speed, and you have to be willing to be paying attention a lot and just go with the riders in front. You could just see then off the lights. You could just see that little bit of lag that I had. I was probably in the wrong gear. I wasn't paying attention or whatever. I was just waiting for the riders to come around. But you got to be really lightning quick reactions, And see Heinrich here in the white jersey. This guy's he's got quite a deep Palmares. I think he did his first Tour of Spain back in 2005. So this guy's been like 15 years at World Tour level, and he's always a factor in a race. You never know if he's going to get a win or not. He's a contender. He's definitely a contender. He's second in San Remo, second in Flanders, and I think he got a 6 in Paris-Roubaix a few years back. So he's one of those guys who's had a bit of bad luck with crashes and injury, but when he's on form, he's definitely a contender. Definitely a contender. And look at his pedaling technique. Look at he's just very fluid, just really good cadence, and he's like that at the start of the ride and also at the end of the ride there. So we're looking at the clouds here, checking out the cloud cadence, and I think it's Cluj at the back there. So there's some pros I've ridden with who just have this pedaling technique, but Heinrich, he's electric, isn't he? He's got that electric sort of. There's another guy I've ridden with, Servais Carnarvon, who's got a similar level of it's called souplesse on the pedals, where you're just spinning with a really controlled sort of feel there. It's very electric. So that's one way you can spot talent there. So I'd say Heinrich's got probably one of the best pedaling techniques in the peloton. Now then again, let's flip it over to Chris Froome. Chris Froome, and he hasn't got the best pedaling technique, but Chris Froome's Chris Froome, super determined guy. So just because you look good on the bike doesn't mean you will be good, all right? So that's not a guarantee, all right? It's not a guarantee at all, because you got guys like Heinrich who'd be in the top of the pedaling souplesse technique, and then you got guys like Chris Froome who you just think is like a weekend warrior, but it's Chris Froome, you know what I mean? Chris Froome, who destroys the peloton anytime he wants to. So how you look on the bike doesn't really mean much, except for a YouTube video or Instagram, all right? But if you do have good technique, I guess it's a bonus, isn't it? But it's not critical. What's critical is your watts per kilo and your cadence and your sugar metabolism and stuff like that. But one thing that all pro riders have is they all have this mad comfort of being fast up the front. You have to be a little bit crazy to be a pro cyclist. You have to be a little bit crazy, don't you? Because you're just taking so much risks. You're in the gutter, you're in the rocks and the dirt, and the crashes around you, and your heart. Imagine your heart rate's 180, and you take your hands off the bars. You got to have some food. You got to flick your sunglasses. You got to change your lens. Look at this comfort. Look at this comfort that Heinrich has. The cadence out the saddle, playing with the sunglasses, and there's you can't really see what's going on up ahead. So it's just trust in the teammates and trust in skills. So not that I recommend trying to copy advanced riders in terms of riding no hands, because you never know when a little bump happens. So we're going up the hill here, climbing, and IAM. It was a solid day out. I was definitely feeling it on most of the climbs. It was definitely great training, and it got me some really good shape. Just that one day of training took me up like a fair few levels for that January that year, and I was really going really good just after that one day. just after that 1 day of solid training. And so to be a pro, here we go, there's a bit of one leg training here. I think it's Dave Tanner. And just sort of doing little drills in January. Some people do them, some people don't. They're not essential. But the main thing, I'll repeat myself again, is you've got to be comfortable at speed. So the best training to be a pro rider would be motor pacing. It would be motor pacing. And we're seeing now with, like I called it a while ago, e-bikes. Sitting behind an e-bike at 50k an hour. The motorbikes are really good, but with legislation and pollution, you're breathing in the fumes when you're doing 400 watts. It's probably not the best thing for your lungs. But if you're on an e-bike, that's really, really powerful. So I definitely think that e-bikes are the future for pro peloton, motor pacing training, etc. Or e-motorbikes even. E-motorbikes are probably the thing. Just because you can sit behind the e-motorbike and not get any pollution in your lungs. Because it's probably not the best thing for your recovery, is getting a lung full of benzopyrene with petroleum products when you're doing motor pacing for 3 or 4 hours or whatever. It's just not the best thing there, I don't think. I could be wrong, but I think sucking in pollution at 400 watts probably isn't the best thing for your health or your performance or your recovery. Could be wrong, though. And so another thing as pro riders you'll see him is that they're just there's different personalities in the peloton. You got, on my right here, you got Martin Elmiger, who's one of the old hands. And just you see him, he rides near his brakes. He always rides near his brakes. But you guys like Heinrich Hausler, who's a sprinter, not so near the brakes, just because they learn how to shift their bike with their body weight. And to be a good sprinter, you can't really have the what-if mentality. To be a good sprinter, you have to be crashing regularly. If you're not crashing in most races, you're probably not a good sprinter. If you're not having some really chaotic near misses, to be a good sprinter, you basically have to be willing to enjoy hospital food for a large part of the year. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. So we see that the massive risks that pro cyclists take at all levels. You might be a pro contour rider, you might be a local C-grade rider, wanting to move up through the ranks, and you're taking massive risks, just for $20 and a plastic trophy. So not many people will ever be a pro cyclist. So I should say not many cycling nuts will ever be a pro. And even you got the guys who are pro cyclists, not many of them will have a career longer than a couple of years. A lot of them will just get chewed up and spat out after a couple of years. It is very, very rare you have any pro cyclist last 10 years or 15 years. It is exceptionally rare. So guys like Heinrich are definitely an extreme minority. And that takes a lot of family support. It takes a lot of self-belief as well. It takes a lot of self-belief. It takes a love for the lifestyle. In and out of hotels, not knowing if you've got a job for longer than the next year, not knowing if the media's going to slam you got the trolls to deal with. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. I mean, it's all first world problems and it's stuff we choose, but it's a side that's not really reported on. It's not really reported on outside, is it? The trials and tribulations of the professional cyclist, which is, I guess, a tough sport, man. Anything can happen. Your bars could slip, your front wheel could blow out, kangaroo could run out in front of the pack right now. How fast are we going now? We're probably doing at least 60k an hour. And anything can happen. Car could cut in front of us, some redneck could just run us all over. Anything can happen anytime. So it is definitely a job not for the faint-hearted.